My name is Jarrod Hyde and I'm a Melbourne-based landscape photographer. I've been shooting for around 4 to 5 years now and recently studied a diploma in photo imaging and now working on building my own business. What drew me to landscape photography was probably the fact that it was something I could go off and do on my own. I didn't have to rely on having other people involved. A bit of an escape, just some me time. Got me out of the house basically. When I first moved to Melbourne, that's when I really took hold of an interest in photography, starting off with cityscapes and the urban art, and gradually moved away from that and further into country Victoria. And now that's where I'm most at home. My camera basically lives on a tripod. I've almost forgotten what it feels like to hold it in my hand. 99% of the time it's straight out of the bag and straight onto a tripod, just for the sake of getting the sharpest image possible, especially if I'm doing something with a slightly longer shutter speed. A tripod's a must. Landscape photography differs from, say, portrait photography. A lot of the elements are out of my control, which is kind of also a rewarding part of it. When everything comes together, I really get a buzz out of getting that shot. It's just you and the camera at the end of the day. Okay, so we're here at cir-pol Falls, just outside of Marysville, hoping to get some really nice shots of the waterfall here. And we're going to demonstrate the effect a circular polarizer can have on a scene like this. I'm shooting currently with a Canon 5D Mark III and paired up with a Zeiss Distagon 21mm. Ideally for these sort of scenes we want to get something fairly wide so that we can capture the whole scene. Generally the wider the better with these sort of scenes, but that's not to say you can't get some great effects with a longer lens as well. So with the 21mm lens, it is a prime lens, so I have to think about my composition quite a lot more. I can't just stand here and zoom in and zoom out. I've really got to think about it a bit more, so I've got to shuffle around. I'm going to have to climb over some rocks to get closer to some shots, but that's half the fun of it. Next we need our polarizer. It simply threads on to the end and we're good to go. Okay, so since we're going to be using some longer shutter speeds, we're going to need a nice sturdy tripod as well. So I have here with me carbon fiber tripod, which is extremely sturdy, and it's also very light, especially when you're hiking a fair bit to get to these places. You're going to want something a little bit lighter, save your back. So basically we're all set up now. We've got our polarizer on, we're on a sturdy tripod, we've got our remote, everything's good to go. We want to start thinking about composition. So basically with a fall like this, obviously a portrait orientation is something that's going to work quite well. That's going to be able to fit most of the falls in the scene here, but we can try both and see what works best. So at the moment here we're on f18, around a third of a second, and now we can start to look at our polarizer and the effect that it has on the scene here. So you can see it here without. We've got some reflections here. You can see the sky reflecting. You've got quite a lot of glare, and then if you rotate the polarizer, you'll see that disappear. So off, quite glary through the bottom here especially, and on. So it cuts through. It actually adds just a little bit of saturation as well, but you can really see the difference there. Okay, so now we're going to have a look. We've moved up a lot closer to the waterfall, and this is going to give us a great indication of the effect that shutter speed can have on your picture. So basically I've got it settings now on f18. I've dropped the ISO down to 50 just because we've been having some harsh light come across, so the lowest ISO possible so that I can get those longer shutter speeds. And we're running a 1 second exposure. So it's not super long, but you'll definitely get an effect from using that shutter speed. So shooting with a 1 second shutter speed is going to slow down the movement of the water coming across the rocks here. It's going to give us a nice soft, streaky, blurry kind of effect, which just looks really nice. The longer you go, the more misty and sort of milky that effect becomes. but 1 second is enough to start getting that softness to the water. So on the flip side of the longer shutter speeds, we can use a quicker shutter speed to give a totally different effect. It's going to freeze the motion of the water a lot more, and you'll be able to see more of that detail, like individual droplets just about. A totally different effect. You can find most of my work over on Instagram, which I've sort of been hooked on of late. That's where I'll be posting most of my work. I'm also on Facebook, also at jarrodhydephotography.com.